privilege and pleasure of walking alongside Dennis for over a year now, from the beginning of coming here, and from the first day actually. And I just want to tell you, I love you. It's been an amazing over a year and a half, right? How long?
15 months.
Yeah, a year and a half. I just want to tell you. And I just want to tell you that the Holy Spirit is moving in your life, and I look forward to hearing and seeing what He has to say. You may want to do that.
There we go.
You got Dennis. There it is.
All right. Thank you, worship team. I will say thank you and congratulations to everyone who got those crosses. I remember when I got my first cross, it was a big moment in my life. So, my name is Dennis. I am a drug addict and an alcoholic, but I love Jesus. I'm honored to be speaking here tonight. I'm a little bit nervous, so I'm going to kind of go in between, like looking at my notes and then kind of talking without looking at notes, so just please bear with me. I'm very excited to be able to tell you about the journey that I've been on this past 15 months. I don't want to necessarily go into too much about my past. I want to still give you a little bit of a background of the things that I've been through. But I know we could sit here and tell war stories all day. But I'm going to try not to do that, but I might. But I really want to focus, and it's funny because Tara and I didn't even talk about what songs, and what I say right here is I want to focus on the miracles that God has done in my life. So how cool is that? Thanks, Tara. I grew up in a Christian household. I had two loving parents who loved Jesus with all their hearts. We went to church on Wednesdays, Sunday mornings, and Sunday nights. And I grew up knowing that Jesus had died for my sins, and my faith was real. But then there was a few things that happened to me growing up that somewhat distorted not only my view of God, but maybe my view of relationships. When I was 7 years old, I was molested by a 16-year-old male neighbor. That same year, I was 7 years old, and I was molested by a 16-year-old female second cousin. I don't really want to get into the details and how it screwed me up, and how it affected my mind as a little boy. But you can imagine that it contributed to a ton of self-worth issues, trust, belonging, and a lot of confusion. I didn't know that these events had kind of screwed me up until I started looking back on things and seeing how I had struggled with relationships. I don't want to ever stand up here and say, because I was molested, that's why I'm a drug addict and that's why I'm an alcoholic, because that's not the case. I do think that some things happened that kind of really shaped the direction my life went into, and I don't want to ignore those things either. But again, like I said, it really had an effect on my relationships. Really confused me. I didn't really know how to let down walls or be vulnerable with men or women growing up. So I just kind of tried to be funny and make people laugh. One of the things that I kind of struggled with, though, with my relationship with God is I was confused as to why He would let that happen. I was wondering if maybe I did something wrong, or maybe I wasn't worthy to be protected. I'm going to kind of step away from that because it's a struggle for me to talk about it. We're going to kind of move forward a little bit. I did go to a Christian college, and coincidentally that was where I had my first taste of alcohol at the age of 18. I loved it. I continued drinking, and as my partying increased, my grades decreased. And after about 2 years, I left college and entered into the workforce. I got a job at a restaurant, started off as a server, quickly rose up, ended up being a manager. Restaurants, the atmosphere that came with the restaurant industry is exactly what I wanted. I wanted to be able to drink until 2 o'clock in the morning and sleep until 12 o'clock in the afternoon and just repeat over and over again. Shortly, within about a couple of years, I ended up being a part owner of a high-end restaurant, steakhouse, and wine bar. And that's really where my addiction took off. My favorite thing to do is to shake people's hands and kiss little babies. That's what I like to do. I like to be out and about. And so I was always drinking with my customers and became the guy that everybody loved. I found acceptance and approval for the first time from those people. But when the restaurant closed, they went home and I stayed at the bar. I sat at my bar by myself. most nights till 4 or 5 in the morning. This is kind of when my addiction changed from just drinking to now getting involved with some other things. During that season of life, I had a serious medical condition. They prescribed me pain medicine with instructions to just take them until you feel better. As an alcoholic, it's very easy to just take it all the time because not only did I feel better, not for the pain, but I felt something. I felt confidence. I felt like different than I'd ever felt before. And that was my first time ever even getting involved with any type of pain medicine. And so that's kind of how I ended up getting hooked on opiates. So 4 years passed and my addiction continued to grow. I ended up leaving the restaurant and doing other things that was easier to get cash right away, so bartend and things like that, just to support my habit. Let's see, so then I hit rock bottom. I had an encounter with the Holy Spirit. I totally believe that. I fell to my knees. I was crying. I knew that I wanted to stop. And so I did. I called my mom and my dad, and they lived in Colorado, and I said, this is what's the deal, and I need to get out of here. So I flew to Colorado with just a backpack. I left everything in Maryland, and I got sober. I didn't go to treatment. I literally just lived with my parents, and I got sober. I went to meetings nonstop. I worked the steps. I worked with other people. In that process, I ended up meeting the love of my life, Cara, and got married. And constantly, I was boasting about what God was doing in my life because look at this guy. He was a mess, and now look at him. He's great. I wish I could say that that's the end of the story. It's not. It wasn't happily ever after. But there was not another rock bottom. So I got diagnosed again with another medical condition. It's called small fiber neuropathy. Basically what it is it feels as if somebody's constantly stabbing my feet with maybe like an ice pick that's on fire. It's like kind of like the best way that I can describe it, and it's constant. So, of course, when you go to the doctor, they say the most effective way to deal with this is going to be through a few non-narcotics, but absolutely, if you want to have a quality of life, this is what you need to do, and start with your pain management. Obviously, because I knew where I had been before, I absolutely said, absolutely not. I'll go with the non-narcotics. We'll see how that works out. Well, about a year went by, and it just became intolerable. It started affecting my life. I stopped going to meetings, stopped calling my sponsor, I stopped working with other people, and just kind of like isolated myself. And then came to the decision, and I went back into the doctor's office and convinced them that the narcotics were probably going to be the best thing for me. And in that same process, I was convincing myself that that was the best thing for me because I can handle it. Because my past shows that, right? But no, I mean, I did it anyway. Within a few months, I was on the streets looking for drugs. In a 5-month span, my behavior became complete insanity, just like it says in the big book. I went to any length to get my fix, no matter who I hurt or affected. I committed tons of crimes, and I don't know how I'm not in jail. I had ruined every single relationship in my life that I had built, that I had fixed, burned every bridge, and spent every single cent that my wife and I had. And that's when I hit rock bottom again, for the last time, God willing. I came down to Florida and checked into TTC, January 19th, thank you, 2016. By the grace of God, it's going to be my last sobriety date. So I came here because they had a Road to Freedom track, which really was an incredible thing to be able to go to a rehab. Yeah, that's right. To go to a rehab that actually knows that your higher power is Jesus. I want to give you a quick view of what my wife did that day. We went to the airport in Colorado Springs at 5 a.m. I think Colorado Springs, or was it Denver? Colorado Springs. It was tough. And we flew from Colorado Springs to, I believe, Houston, had a layover, and then to Fort Lauderdale. TTC sent a truck or a van, SUV, to pick us up. She came with me, drove from Fort Lauderdale to Lake Worth, got out, walked me and kissed me and said, I support you 100%. and got back in in the SUV and went back to the airport and was home by that night. So I knew that she had my back. So going to the Road to Freedom track, it gave me the opportunity to be able to completely surrender my life, my pain, all of my relationships. While I was in there, I had the ability to become completely broken. I think that the first time I got sober, I just kind of was broken from the bottom, from the midways to, I don't know. I just wasn't fully broken. Okay? Now I was. Okay? I remember, and Patrick will attest to this, and Pastor Mike too, I went into the pastor's office every day for the first 7 days and just cried. And they prayed with me. I don't know why I'm so emotional. Sorry. And they prayed with me. But it was an amazing time of growth. Even when I was sober, I didn't have that mentorship or that people that I felt like were really just like had my back. Even though I'm sure there were. One morning after being there 10 days, I woke up in a cold sweat. My hands were clenched so tight that my nails had like put marks into my palms, and I had a using dream. And I'd never had one of those before. So I was freaking out, and I remember I went to Pastor Patrick's office, and I said, listen, this is what's going on. Does this mean I'm going to relapse? He said, no, Dennis, that is good. That's the devil's last chance trying to keep you. He wants to put that in your brain to make you think that you have to relapse, and that's a good thing, because now, the devil knows that you're stronger than him. So just tons of things that could continue to happen. At TTC, and the last story I'll tell about that is one morning I was really struggling. I wanted to go home. I was at about the 20-day wall, and Pastor John, I don't know if anybody remembers him, he led the music, but he was leading a morning devotional. So I went out there because my counselor wasn't there yet, who I wanted to talk to and tell her how much I hated it here. And he was talking about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego being in the fiery pit, and sometimes, you probably feel like you're in that fiery pit, you're all alone, but just like, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, there was a fourth person in there. God was in there. And so I equated that to my own life. I feel like right now, nobody is here. I'm in a treatment center by myself. I hate this. This is like the worst. But God was there. So it was just things every single day that continued to happen that just, I could see that God was working in my life. After 42 days in treatment, I decided to, I don't know if I decided necessarily, but someone decided that I would stay here and do a PHP program. So I signed up for that. I lived at a place called, that's my baby crying. Sorry. I lived at a place called House of Principles for 5 weeks. It was one of the best times of my life and one of the hardest times, because obviously my wife was living in Colorado and I was living with a bunch of guys. But I was able to build a community of men that wanted the same thing I wanted. They wanted to be sober, that wanted to live for Jesus. And so, as hard as that 5 weeks was, I wouldn't have changed it for anything. God showed His sovereignty, but over my wife and I's relationship as I was living there. He was taking care of her and letting her heal. He was taking care of me and letting me heal, and we were doing it separately. But I think we needed that, because I had done some crazy things, and the fact that she was still with me, she needed some healing. God allowed my wife to get out of our lease, which saved us a ton of money, and she was able to move in with my parents. She was being financially supported through prayer as well. At the same time, like I said, He was healing me, my mind, my spirit, my body. He was allowing me to be a part of a great community, like I said. So much so that I thought maybe this is where I want to stay, Florida. So I began putting it in my wife's ear, maybe we should move here. Maybe, you should come back down here and let's not go back to Colorado. And so we started weighing the pros and cons, and it seemed like every day there was 5 pros for Florida, the next day there was 5 cons for Florida. So we were really struggling, and we were waiting, wanting God to say, this is what you need to do, and speak it, and we would hear it. After that didn't happen, we thought maybe God was just waiting for us to make a leap of faith, and then He would bless it. So we came up with a plan. We had 2 vehicles at that time, and one of them was paid for. We said, let's put this car up on the market for way more than it's worth and see what happens. If it sells, then we can financially be able to move here. And that night it sold. So we knew that we were supposed to be here. So we nervously and excitedly moved to Florida and started a new life away from everyone we knew. From the moment that we arrived, it was evident that God had ordained all of our steps. From the apartment that we ended up renting to the people that we met, the sponsors, we both got sponsors, her with Al-Anon and me in AA, and then falling in love with Christ Fellowship, which TTC had brought me to. So it was just great. It seemed like God had his hand in everything, as well as our small group. So I have three things that I'm going to talk about. I'm almost done, but these are three of the big things that happened to us that I can say these are miracles. First, when my wife resigned, the company that she was working for asked her if she'd be willing to work for 2 months remotely, which meant that she could work at our apartment in Florida and keep her paycheck and keep our insurance, which allowed me to stay in IOP. So, I mean, that's just unheard of. They don't do that. There's nobody that works remotely for that company. They did that for her and for us. Second, we were involved in Christ Fellowship, but if any of you have been there, there's 20,000 people that go there. So it's a huge church, and we wanted it to feel a little bit smaller. So we tried to get involved by doing a membership class. So it's called Journey, and we went in, and there is a 4-week class, and there are about 15 tables of 6 to 8 people, and so they ushered us to one of the front tables, and we're sitting down, and we're going around kind of introducing ourselves, and lo and behold, there's these 2 guys sitting right across, and it happens that we have connections. We know each other's. We're not friends, but we know of each other, and some of them worked with my dad, and it was just amazing that this church is so big. I was going to put me at a table with these 2 guys who we're still friends with now, and that we can rely on. So that was another miracle, and then the last one is my small group, which is probably taking up half of the seats in here. So the small group, the small home group is just something where they allow 10 people to get together at someone's house, and so we signed up for a small group, and they gave us a call, and they said be there Thursday at 7. As we're driving to a small group, I'm just complaining and saying, I don't want to go. Every time we go somewhere new, they say, why are you here? And I said, I'm a drug addict, and alcoholic, I went to treatment, and nice to meet you, thanks for letting me in your house. And so I was so frustrated. So I was complaining, we got up to the door, and finally my wife was fed up, and she said, let's go. And then they opened the door. And so I walk in, and there's about 8 of them there, excuse me. And there's a couple groups, 2 groups, and I walk over, and what's the first question he says? Mike, I'm so sorry. This is not a water hole. The guy, Mike, he said, hey, what brings you to Florida? Well, how'd you move down here? And I said, well, to be honest with you, I just got out of a rehab, and I'm a drug addict and alcoholic, but I love Jesus. And he said, oh, that's awesome. He's like, yeah, see me, about 20 years sobriety. That guy, he's got 15 years. She got 15. It was just so amazing that I know in that instance that God was like, why do you not trust me? Look what it's like he has a very good sense of humor. And so now we're doing life with this small group, and it's an amazing thing. Miracle after miracle after miracle, how God provided to support us in this new chapter of our lives. We learned many lessons of faithfulness during this time, and God made beauty from ashes. Satan really tried to destroy us. He was telling me I wasn't worthy for a second, third, or fourth chance, but then the cross always says that there's always another chance, and that's what we have to remember. After arriving to Florida, we got wonderful news that we were pregnant. Now, being in a treatment center for 42 days and then being in a halfway house for 5 weeks, it was evident that it was very quick that she got pregnant when we were living here. But it was a gift from God. We had a failed pregnancy about a year and a half, so it was amazing. And everything seemed to be going perfect. That's when we needed to work. But then December 1st, 25 days before Christmas and 6 weeks before my baby was supposed to be born, I was let go from my job. This kind of put me into a little bit of a tailspin. Satan continued to tell me that I was a horrible husband, soon to be father, because I couldn't provide for my family. It was a prime opportunity for Satan to pull me down the wrong path. But that's where my faith in Jesus and the tools that I learned in the program and working my steps, that's where was the difference this time. is that I'm allowed to struggle, I'm allowed to be angry and sad and depressed, but I have to be able to come out of it. And our daughter ended up being born on January 14th. A couple weeks after that, Pastor Phil kind of got me connected into some stuff and gave me a sense of purpose and what I wanted to do. Certainly it wasn't my time, because I would have said if I got let go of the first, the second I'd like another job, but that's not God's time. But when I get down to the wire, it seems like my faith is hanging on by a thread. That's when God just jumps in. I still often wrestle with the fact that God allowed me to have this incurable thing with my feet when the only treatment is my weakness. But I'm slowly starting to realize that God's ways are higher than my ways, and that they're perfect. There must be a reason that I'm going through this pain. I don't understand it right now, and I might not ever understand it until I get to heaven. But that's the key, I'm going to be in heaven. And I have to trust that it's going to be okay, because I serve a very good God. Life's full of unending peaks and valleys, and I find that I do the best when I'm in the valleys, because that's when I have to lean on God the most. I'm a living testimony that the valleys are not in vain, and that in fact my experience, it's the valleys where I grow the most. I have no strength apart from Him, and truly He's the only reason I'm living. Last thing I kind of want to say is, I'm just wrapping up here. I don't think I can explain the support from my wife. It was tough being away from her. We were just married, and she married a drug addict and knew that I was a drug addict, but knew I was sober. I broke a lot of relationships with family, and the fact that her parents are here tonight is amazing to me. That means a ton. And I'm so happy that I get to do life with you. So, thank you guys.